Brochim haboyim, welcome. Gemach simetoive. May we all be inscribed for a good year. May the inscription end out with a good year. Ich heiße Chayele Palevsky. Ich bin da in Schus Ovis. I'm here not on my own merits, but on the merits of my parents. The late Shimke Palevsky and bis 120 Jahre Chayele, who just celebrated her 95th birthday and decided she had to break a hip before she reached 96. So she is here with Walker ensconced, but the kibbutz is in her honor. Why in their schus? Both parents were partisans of Vilna. They lost family, but survived the Holocaust. When they came to this country, no one was in a mood to acknowledge the horror that had just occurred. Alle haben nicht nur geschwiegen, nur sie haben gewollt verschweigen. Not only were they silent, but they wanted to silence. And the surviving remnant of Jews who were involved in the social, cultural, and political life of Vilna said, we need an organization to maintain the cultural spirit of this unique place in Jewish life and history, not just in geography. And so they founded Nusakh Vilne. Sie haben gegründet Nusakh Vilne mit 64 Jahren Krieg, 64 years ago, when there were no Holocaust museums and there were no Holocaust memorials, and people said, be quiet, we don't want to hear about this, or to be reminded of perhaps their own passivity as a community. They created Nusakh Vilne not only to mourn the loved ones whose murder was still a raw wound in their hearts, but to create a position which would remember and carry forth the spirit of Vilna. There is no more appropriate place for such an event to occur than YIVO. YIVO also given birth in Vilna, and YIVO, which is the repository of that history, that treasury, from which we can draw and build creative futures. Ich will später mit euch reden mehr auf Yiddish, aber ich wollte abschrecken, die was reden nicht. How many here are Yiddish challenged? Ich habe also gemeint. Okay? So for those of you who are Yiddish challenged, please know YIVO has terrific Yiddish courses. Outstanding Yiddish courses. We'll speak with you a little bit later. Right now I'd like to ask for a brief welcome Jonathan Brent, who is the executive director of YIVO and today's main feature speaker as well. Jonathan.
Welcome to everybody. It's such a great honor for YIVO to host this Nusakh Vilne memorial event every year. And today, especially during the New Year period, I wish everybody Shana Tova, and I look forward to a wonderful program. Before we begin, though, Elliot spoke about the spirit of Vilna. And one of the documents that we have found most recently in our work in what we call the Edward Blank YIVO Vilna Collections Project, it is a document that has not seen the light for 73 years. It is among a variety of materials that we are discovering. These are brand new discoveries, by the way, in locations in Vilnius that almost defy our imagination. And this letter, in particular, I think is of a special importance to this community. Let me read the caption to this, and unfortunately we can't really make it more legible on screen. This is a copy of a Yiddish open letter that was sent by former Jewish partisans to Soviet Yiddish poet Peretz Markish on the eve of his visit to Vilna in March of 1945. The writers express patriotic sentiments and express the wish that when Markish gives a reading in Vilna, his work will portray not only the death of the Jews of Vilna and Lithuania, but the experiences of Jews who fought the Nazis. The inscription at the bottom is written by a paper brigade member, ghetto poet, and partisan Shmerke Kaczerginsky, who was responsible with Avram Sutzkever for starting the new Jewish Museum of Vilnius after the war. And it seems to me there is no more fitting emblem of that spirit of Vilna than this letter that both acknowledges the heartbreak, the searing, incalculable loss, but also the resistance, the spirit, the fighting back that the partisans of Vilna did during the war. And so we remember both of those things today. Thank you.
The date of our gathering each year tries to come as close as possible to September 23rd, when the ghetto of Vilna was liquidated. And so this year we're on the 24th, and next year, because the 23rd will be Erev Sukkot, we will gather on the 16th. I will ask Janice Barron-Blott to come and light the candles as a remembrance of that day of liquidation. Janice is, ihr Schuss ist, als sie ist Tochter von Michel und Millie, Michel von Oshmina, also from the Vilna region, and went through the Holocaust and the hell and survived and built a strong foundation for Jewish life here. Michel was my first group leader when I was a camper in Camp Kindering. I gave him a hard time. And we then became Yiddish teachers together in the Yiddish cultural schools, and then we went our separate ways. Chefke sei es gut. Recitation by Ruth Barron Gerald.
Itzik Wittenberg von Shmerke Kaczerginsky. Es liegt ergets verteiet der Feind wie a Chaie, der Mauser erwacht in mein Hand. Nur plutzum Gestapo hes viert a geschmitten durch Finsternis dem Kommandant. Die Nacht hat mit Blitzen die Ghetto zerrissen. Gefahr, schreit am eurer Wand. Chaverim Getreie, von Keten befreien, verschwunden mit dem Kommandant. Die Nacht ist verflogen, der Teut vor die Augen, die Ghetto, sie fiebert in Brand, in Umruh die Ghetto, es droht die Gestapo, Teut oder dem Kommandant. Gesagt hat dann Itzig und durch wie ein Blitz ist, ich will nicht, ihr sollt zu lieb mir, dürfen dem Säune das Leben abgeben, zum Teut geht stolz der Kommandier. Liegt wieder verteilt, der Feind wie ein Haie, mein Mauser erwacht in mein Hand. Jetzt bist du mir teuer, sei du mein Befreier, sei du jetzt mein Kommandant. Somewhere the enemy lies hidden like a beast. The Mauser in my hand is alert. But suddenly the Gestapo, leading our commandant in chains through the darkness. Night in the ghetto was torn by lightning. Beware, shrieks a building, a wall. Faithful comrades, freedom from chains, vanished with the commandant. Night has flown by, death hovered before us. The ghetto is shaken as in fever. Restless the ghetto as Gestapo threatens, your commandant or death. Itzik then spoke up, words that struck like lightning. I do not want that. Because of me, your lives are to be put in the hands of the foe. Proudly to his death went our commandant. Again, somewhere, the enemy lurks like a beast. The Mauser is alert in my hand. Now, my Mauser, be you the liberator. Be you my commandant now.
Our performing artists, Yelena Schmulson, a wonderful singer, fine actress, Ben Schechter, composer, director, conductor, will grace our program with their music.
Vilna, city full of life and innocence. How often I dream of you and your old ghetto in the foggy glow. I remember everything, and something gnaws at me when I think of you. The streets, the forests, the rivers. When I think of you, a tear rolls down my cheek. I remember the Zakret forest, where our teachers taught us in secret, and we kids were so inspired. Vilna.
Vilna, Stadt von Geist und Mimes. Vilna, jede Schlag vertracht, wo es murmeln stillet vieles, stilles Säudes von der Nacht. Oftmals seh ich dir in Cholem, es geliebte Vilna mein, und die alte Vilna Ghetto in a neppeldicken Schein. Vilna, Vilna, unser Heimstatt, unser Bänkschaft und Bagger. Ach, wie oft es ruft dein Namen von mein Eugereus adrer. Vilner Gesslach, Vilner Teichen, Vilner Wälder und toll. Etwas Neues, etwas bängt sich nach die Zeiten von einmal. Ich seh dem Wäldele Sakreter in sein Schotten eingehielt, wo Geheimes haben Lehrer unser Wissen durchgestillt. Vilna hat dem ersten Vater von der Freiheit von gewebt und die liebe Kinder ihre mit der zarten Geist belebt. Vilna, Vilna, unser Heimstatt, unser Bänkschaft unbegehr. Ach, wie oft es ruft dein Namen von mein Euger äußert Vilner Gesslich, Vilner Teichen, Vilner Wälder Berg und Tal. Etwas Neues, etwas bängt sich nach die Zeiten von einmal. Vilner Gesslich, Vilner Teichen, Vilner Wälder Berg und Tal. Etwas Neues, etwas bängt sich nach die Zeiten von einmal.
Quiet. Be very quiet. Nothing grows here but the graves. All the roads lead to the Panar forest. There is no way back. Don't cry, my child, it won't help. Outside it's spring, but in our hearts there's nothing but pain. Even the river is covered with ice, but the darkness will end soon. You have to be quiet until these gates fall. Freedom will come and your father will come back too. But until then, we have to be quiet, hope, and wait. And I will see the light of freedom shining on your face.
Stille, stille, lass mir schweigen, Quor im Wachsen da. Es haben sie verpflanzt die Sonne, Brebelien sie zum Blau. Es führen Wegen super nach zu, es führt kein Weg zurück. Ist der Tate wohl verschwunden und mit ihm das Glück. Stille Kind, meins Wein, nicht heut, es helft nicht kein Gewehen. Unser Unglück will uns so dem sei wie nicht verstehen. Es haben Breges nur die Jammen, es haben die Füße solche zusammen, nur für unser Bein. Kein bisschen Schein, kein bisschen Schein. Frühling auf ein Land gekommen und uns Herbst gebracht, ist der Tag heil voll mit Blumen und seit nur die Nacht. Goldig scheut der Herbst auf Stammen, es blüht in uns der Zar. Bleibt verjosemt, wo am Mames Kind geht auf Panar. Wie die Vilja geschmiedet euch gejocht in Bein, ziehen Kries heiß, durchliete hitz den Jammer rein. Es wird der Heuschig Wut zerrunnen, von der finster leichten Sonnen, Reiter komm geschwind. Kind. Stille, stille, lom quallen unseren Herz herum, bis der Teuer wird nicht fallen sein, mir musen stumm. Frei nicht Kind, meins ist ein Schmeichel, jetzt vor uns verrat. Sein dem Frühling soll der Säune wie in Herbst Blatt. Soll der Qual sich ruhig fließen, stille sei und hoff. Mit der Freiheit kommt der Tate. Schlafsche Kind, mein schlaft, wie die Wilje aber freite, wie die Bäume grün beneite, leicht bald Freiheitslicht auf dein Gesicht, auf dein Gesicht.
Es ist auch Wörtel auf Jiddisch, es ist schwer zu sein ein Jid. Es ist auch schwer zu sein ein Mensch. Aber es ist noch schwerer zu sein ein Vierer zwischen Jiden. Ihr kennt da guckt von den Tere, wird ihr sehen, was Moshe Rabbeinu hat gehabt, euch zu stehen. There's an expression, it's tough to be a Jew. Right? It's tough to be a decent human being, but it's even tougher to be a leader among Jews. And you can just look into Chumash and see what Moses had to deal with as he was trying to create a people. We're very fortunate that our YIVO has a person willing to put up with the difficulties and the strains of leadership of one of our most important institutions. I said to Jonathan Brent as we're standing outside, Jonathan, you're doing a superb job. And how do I know this? Because I live in Florida. How do I know? Because the regards I get are either he is terrific, or boy, how terrible this guy is. And if you get both things, then you know you're doing something right. The truth is that Jonathan is deepening the YIVO's value and its research capacities and its academic ties, while broadening the access to all of these treasures to the whole community so that they might be enriched by their own heritage. And it really is a privilege to have Jonathan be our main speaker for this event today.
I won't comment. Only to say it's such a joy to see Chayele here to celebrate her 95th birthday and to give you all an update. Last year, I think, or possibly the year before, I spoke about the inception of the YIVO Vilna Collections Project, which is the digitization, the preservation, the conservation, and the study of all of the materials that existed in the YIVO archives and library before the war that were saved from the Nazis. Some of these materials were sent to Frankfurt, where they were found by the US Army after the war, and sent here to New York City. But some materials which were hidden by Shmerke Kaczerginski, Avram Sutzkever, and what was then called the Paper Brigade, that included many others, who secretly, while they were sorting materials for the Nazis, hid materials in their pants, in their jackets, and in their boots, and took them into the ghetto where these materials were hidden, buried. Some materials were given to non-Jewish friends for safekeeping after the war. And after the war, in fact, in July of 1944, Kaczerginski and Sutzkever, who had been partisans, returned to Vilnius and began the process of collecting these materials that they had hidden and saved. And it turned out that quite a bit had been hidden and saved. Hundreds of thousands of pages of documents and thousands of books. And they amassed all of these materials and were intent on building the new Jewish Museum of Vilnius, which was a fine endeavor until the Soviets arrived and decided to put an end to all Jewish culture throughout Eastern Europe. And this meant that all the materials that had been saved from the Nazis were now going to be sent to the pulping mill and turned into dust by the Soviets. Kaczerginski and Sutzkever, seeing very clearly that there was no future for them in Lithuania, in the Soviet world, fled, having sent as many things out of the country as they could to the YIVO Institute here in New York, but they couldn't send everything. And the consequence was that a great many thousands, tens of thousands of books and documents were put in bags and sent to the pulping mill. But there was a Lithuanian librarian, Antanas Ulpis, who refused to let this go forward. And in the dead of night, according to accounts, he organized colleagues, and they took these materials from the loading dock of the pulping mill, and they brought them to St. George's Church, and they buried them, and they hid them in the basement of St. George's Church, which the Soviets had turned into the book palace, as they called it, a library. There those materials stayed from 1948 until the Soviet Union fell in the early 90s, and at that point the Lithuanian government announced that there were all of these materials. And it was an amazing revelation because no one had any idea that they had survived, but they had. And so our project, which we began, and I'm so delighted to see Suzanne Leon here, who was instrumental in helping to begin the YIVO Vilna Collections Project with me back in 2013. We began the process of building bridges with the Lithuanian government and the Lithuanian institutions, the library, the Central State Archives, with the thought that what we would do is bracket for a while the question of who owns all these materials. Because frankly, to me, the question of who owns these materials, while it's important and certainly is troubling, is a little bit like the struggle over the child in the story of Solomon. And who is the real mother? The real mother is the woman who takes care of the child, not who gives birth to the child. And so we wanted to take care of these materials, which were decomposing in the basement of that church. I had gone and visited, and I had seen that they were literally rotting. And the Lithuanian authorities agreed. And so we began this project. And we had to raise a great deal of money. But through the efforts of many people, through the efforts of our board, the Lithuanian government itself, the National Endowment of the Humanities, the Claims Conference, Steven Spielberg, many individuals who gave as much as they could, $50, $100, $200, $1,000 to this project. We have, over these last 3 years, raised almost the entire sum that is necessary to complete this project. But what we did not know at the beginning, and what we have found out only as we have continued with this project, is that this man, Antanas Ulpis, this Lithuanian librarian, he was so intent on saving these Jewish materials that he hid them in more than one place. In fact, he deposited them kind of like Easter eggs around Vilnius. And the more we have gone forward with this project, the more materials have come to light. And at one point, after I gave a talk in Vilnius, a young woman came to me and said, would you be interested in seeing other materials that we think might have belonged to YIVO? I said, of course. So she took me to the Wróblewski library, which had never appeared on anybody's radar screen up to that point. The Wróblewski library, and there I went into a room where there was a large table, and there were some 30 boxes of materials, and I started looking through the materials, and sure enough, the documents had the YIVO stamp on them. So I turned to the librarian, and I said, you've been saving all of these materials since 1948? She said, yes. I said, what have you been doing with these materials? Oh, she said, we've been waiting. I said, well, what have you been waiting for? She said, we've been waiting for you. And so, of course, we had to incorporate these materials now in the YIVO Vilna Collections Project. And now, in 2017, we have, I think, miraculously found perhaps the greatest part of the entire collection that was hidden in Lithuania. A collection that in itself doubles the total amount of material that we know was saved in Lithuania. A collection of the highest conceivable value that includes personal works from the Library of the Gaon, that includes handwritten Hasidic manuscripts, sermons by famous Hasidic rebbes, that includes Pinkasim from all over the Jewish world, that includes, moreover, boxes and boxes and boxes of literary manuscripts in Yiddish. And we don't know yet who the author of most of these manuscripts are, except that we have found among these materials 5 additional notebooks of poetry by Chaim Grada and 6 notebooks of prose that he left behind and were thought lost forever. In addition, Avram Sutzkever's Ghetto Notebook, handwritten manuscripts by Shmerke Kaczerginski. This is undoubtedly the part of the YIVO pre-war library and archive that the leaders of YIVO, before the Nazis came, had decided that if they were going to try to save anything as a composite, they would save these. This is what I would do. If I knew that the Nazis or some white supremacist group were going to take over YIVO today, I would instruct my librarians and my archivists to put together those materials which represent the quintessence of all that our archive and library contains, and we would find a safe place somewhere to put these materials and hope that sometime in the future people might be able to find these, and I believe that's what we have found here. And so I invite invite you all, actually, to come back to YIVO in late October, October 24th. In fact, we're going to have a press conference at which we announce these findings, and we are going to put many of these materials on display. We have an arrangement with the Lithuanian government whereby they are sending these materials to us on a long-term loan. And this applies to the entire collection of Lithuania, in Lithuania now, which is that because of the level of trust that now exists between YIVO and the authorities there, we will be able here, again, bracketing the question of ownership, to bring these materials physically to the United States, to show them to all of you, to communities in San Francisco and in Florida and in Chicago and Cleveland and Texas and everywhere. And so it's opening up, I believe, a whole new chapter of YIVO's relationship to Lithuania, a whole new chapter of YIVO's archives, and furthermore, because we are digitizing all of these materials and putting them on a web platform that will be made available to people around the world, we will, for the first time, be able to show people who can't be here in this auditorium, people who live in Cape Town, people who live in California, or God knows, in New Jersey, or Riverdale, who can't get here. Show them what Kaczerginski speaks of in this document, which is not just how Jews died, but how they lived. What the real life of the people was. And not just the life of the intellectuals, and not just the life of the Rebbes and the Kabbalists and so on and so forth, but the life of the water carriers, the life of the young woman who runs the newspaper stand, the life of the school children, the life of the aspiring ballerinas, the life of the gangsters, the bricklayers union. All of those materials are in this tremendous collection. And I'll tell you something. When I first came to the YIVO Institute about 8.5 years ago now, what intrigued me, and I had known about YIVO for years and years and years before because I had known Lucien Dobrzycki very well, and I had published works at Yale and at Northwestern University Press where I had been beforehand. I knew YIVO to be a research institute. I knew it to have a great library. I knew it to have a most interesting archive. But I didn't know what YIVO was. But through this Vilna Collections, this YIVO Vilna Collections project, I've come to know, I think, what YIVO is. YIVO is not just about documents and facts and research. YIVO is a living community. It's a living community of people who value the past, who understand that it is only by knowing this past that we can have any kind of a future. How can you have a future if you are disconnected radically from who you are? There is a powerful and terrifying scene in the Dybbuk by Ansky that he wrote in 1914 to 1916. It's when the great Rebbe Azriel is approached by the father of the girl who's inhabited by this Dybbuk, and the father implores Reb Azriel to perform the exorcism. And the Rebbe turns to his assistant. He says, he's come to me? He's come to me? Why has he come to me when the me in me is no longer there? So in 1916, Ansky understood how vulnerable the me in the me of Jewish life was. How in need we were of collecting and remembering and preserving this history, because without it, we don't have a me. We may have automobiles, and we may have very nice apartments, and we may have degrees from Harvard and Oxford and anywhere else you might imagine. But where is the me, the I, that thing that makes you who you are? And so Ansky understood this because, of course, he had instigated the ethnographic expedition where he collected the first real YIVO sort of Sammlering project was Ansky's. And he understood that me was fading for multiplicity of different reasons, not simply because of anti-Semitism. In fact, sometimes because of philo-Semitism, sometimes because people just forgot, sometimes because of ignorance, sometimes who knew what? Radical politics. But what YIVO stands for, and what I have come to understand in these 8 years, what was the driving spirit of Max Weinreich in Vilna in 1925 when this institution was formed, was that it was not simply a research institute, it was a community that embraced the totality of Jewish life. The totality of Jewish life of which most American Jews are completely ignorant. And although I don't like doing this normally, I would like to draw your attention to an article that's in this week's Sunday New York Times. From Poland to Lithuania, a writer's search for her Jewish past. It's the front page article. What is her Jewish past? Her Jewish past consists of finding the addresses of her grandmother and grandfather, of going through the streets where they lived, of going to the graveyards where the tombstones have been broken, of seeing the erasures of history that have wiped out all memory of Jewish life in those little towns. That's finding her Jewish past. That's what it is. And that's what it is for most people today, whether they're in America or in France or in England or in Russia. That's all it is. It has no me. And the function of this great project of the Vilna collections is not just to digitize 1.5 million documents and 12,000 or so books, but to help give energy back to that community of people, enable this community not just to find out where their grandparents lived and what their great-grandparents' professions were, but to have a conversation about the meaning of that life, a conversation about how that life improbably, incomprehensibly, has led to this one that we enjoy today. So I invite you all back later in October. On the 24th, we will have this press conference, unless there are earthquakes and other things that interfere. I invite you to come and see some of these materials that we are bringing from Lithuania. And I hope that in the future we will be able to have a much bigger display at some venues here and elsewhere in the United States. Thank you very much.
And to paraphrase the wonderful story that Jonathan told about the librarian, what are you waiting for? And so what are we waiting for? We're waiting for us. And we're waiting for us to grab hold of this Yerusha, of this heritage, and to incorporate it into our very being so that our me becomes more substantial. The program now calls for Chayele Palevsky to recite. Sadly, Chayele's father, Gershke, just passed away 3 days ago. And so I will take a moment. My mother said, ironically, Mama bis 120 Jahre, ist nicht da, wer soll sterben? There are so few folks left of the survivors of Vilna to pass on. But Gershke was such a survivor. He was from Miechalesko. He went through the hell of Stutthof, the forced labor camp. He survived as a brilliant watchmaker and using those skills. He was liberated by the U.S. Army from Dachau and created a life here in America for his family and set up shop as a watchmaker in New Haven and had a mishpacha and a tochter was lehnt for Dorf Yiddish, and a daughter who recites in Yiddish for us and who researches at YIVO to come up with plays to translate in her New World Theater. And so the me is there. And some of the me came from researching here. I think it's important to note these things. So for a moment, even before we do the Yizkor, we're remembering Gershke Palevsky and hope that Chayele Palevsky will be with us next year to grace us with her poetry and recitation. Yelena, Binyamin.
Under your white stars, stretch out your hand to me. My words are tears, and they want to rest in your hand. I want to give you all I have, because inside me a fire burns, and there is no rest for me. I run higher and higher, and I look for you. Where are you? There is no rest for me. I hang like a broken string, and I sing to you. Under your white stars, stretch out your hand to me.
Unter deine weiße Stern streckt zu mir dein weiße Hand. Meine Wärter seinen Tränen willen ruhen in dein Hand. Seh, es dunkelt sehr finkel in mein kellerdicken Blick. Und ich hab gar nicht kein Winkel sie zu schenken dir zurück. Und ich hab gar nicht kein Winkel, sie zu schenken dir zurück. Und ich will doch Gott getreuer dir vertreuen, mein Vermeg, weil es mont in mir a Feier und in Feier meine Tag. Noch in Kellern in Lecher weint die mörderische Ruhe, läufe ich Hecher über Dächer. Und ich such, wo bist du, wo? Läuf ich Hecher über Dächer. Und ich such, wo bist du, wo? Nehmen jogen mich mir schöne Trepp und häufen mit Gewoi. Häng ich angeplatzte Strune und ich sing zu dir azoi. Unter deine weiße Stern streckt zu mir dein weiße Hand. Meine Wärter, seinen Tränen willen ruhen in dein Hand. Meine Wärter, seinen Tränen willen ruhen in dein Hand.
Why should we cry? Why should we complain? We will soon say Kaddish for General Frank. We should be happy and tell each other jokes. We will soon sit Shiva for Hitler. And those who take us to Treblinka, the earth will swallow them. And we will soon dance on German graves.
Was darfen mir weinen, was darfen mir sorgen? Mir will noch Franken, a Kaddish noch sorgen. Yadi bye, 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 yadi bye, 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 yadi bye, 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 bye. Lass mir sein freilich und sorgen sich witzen. Mir will noch Hitler, Schiefe noch sitzen. Ade bye, 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 ade bye, 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 ade bye, 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 bye. Die Sonne, was vieren uns dort kennt, Treblinke, sie werden bald werden in Dreher dein Gesinken. Ade bye, 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 ade bye, 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 ade bye, 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 bye. Wir wollen zusammen nach Horem bei oben in mir Taschem tanzen auf deutsche Quorum. Ade bye, 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 ade bye, 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 ade bye, 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 ade bye, 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 ade bye, 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 ade bye, 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 bye.
Jonathan invited us to the press conference on October 24th, and I'm inviting us to make a weekend of it, extended weekend of it, on October 22nd here at YIVO. There will be a afternoon and evening event marking the 120th anniversary of the founding of the Yiddischer Arbeiterbund, the Jewish Labor Bund. The Bund was also a child of Vilna, founded in a hovel in 1897, and it revolutionized Jewish life. It created a solid critical mass of Jewish national diaspora identity and pride. It took Jewish messianism and turned it into social activism. The Bund, I guess, was the first to bring real tikkun olam as activity of political and social action, not just of prayer, to the Jewish world. And so on Sunday the 22nd, there will be some academic panel discussions, there will be some talks of Jewish activists, there will be poetry and song, and of course, wird sein was zu essen euch. And I invite you to take part in that. At the founding of Nusakh Vilne, the custom became to mention the names of those who were part of an intimate part of the Vilna community and organization had passed on. And as my mother said, we just mentioned Gershke Peretzman. I've been asked to mention Abraham Turov and Danke Turov and Gersh and Masha Gabri of the Turov family. For those who have folks who passed on the previous year, if they were part of the Vilna community, please do let us know. This is not typically like a shul where you do a yahrzeit, but if there's someone within the community that was fehlt uns von Pfarrerjahren bis Hajor, who's kind of missing from last year to this year, let us know and we can mention the name. But as a sign of our collective mourning for the loss of that entire community, not its heritage, but its people, I'll ask Michal Baran to do the El Mole Rachmim.
One more thing, noch ein Sach, was ich kann nicht vergessen. Ich bin nicht von Vilna, ich bin ein Oschmaner. Sutzgewer ist gewesen von Sutzgewer, von Smargon. Der Vilna Goen ist geboren in einer kleinen Stadt, nicht weit von Vilna. Chayele ist nicht von Vilna, also wie ich. Wir sind ein Vilner in Geist. And now I'll say it in English, so I hope you will understand. We put the crown of Vilna upon you, Dr. Brandt. From now on, you're just like me, a Vilna. I had a great pleasure to study over there in the Vilna Yiddischer Realgymnasie, the only Yiddish gymnasia in Poland. 3.5 million Jews, 3.5 million spoke Yiddish, except those who disassociated themselves. But Vilna had the only high school, and I, till this very day, I rejoice in the fact that I was not only a Vilna, but I'm also one who studied in Vilna Yiddischer Realgymnasie. And I was a Sammler. I told you already once before. This means Die Vilner Studenten seien gegangen von Tier zu Tier, von Gass zu Gass, von Gessel zu Gessel und gekriegen Volkswörtler und gekriegen, was tracht Idene, was verkauft Apple oder was verkauft hin a Hund, it meant chickens, nicht verärgert. It was kind of a Vilna, like Kulbak used to say, a viele de Steiner reden Yiddish. Even the stones, they speak and argue in Yiddish. Chayele, I wish you long, happy life till 120. I won't take away 1 second more than that. 124 years, like Moshe Rabbeinu. She worked very hard in order to maintain the Nusakh Vilne, even though very few of us left. 20 years ago, I was asked to say El Rachamim. 20 years already, and I'm so rejoicing in the fact that I was contributed something not only over there as a Sammler, but over here as saying the last words about El Rachamim. But before I say the El Rachamim, I would like to read to you a short little poem by a Romanian Jew who obviously was a great poet. And he wrote a Kaddish, is it called. And when you will listen to it, you will hear also the sound of the very ancient of ours, Aramaic Hebrew Kiddush. Kaddish, Kaddish. In Geist von traditionellen liturgischen Kaddish hat ein gut bekannter jüdischer Poet von Rumänien, Bessarabien, in einer tiefen emotionellen geschrieben, der Kaddish, Ephraim Euerbach. Gott, der Barmdicker, was in Heuchem tust du wohnen, auch unter deine Flügeln bringt die Heilige und Reine, die wo seine von der Welt gegangen Unbeweiner. Wie die Licht im Himmel scheinen sie ja so gesäubert, den Schammes von verpeinigte, geschändete Guffim. Wenn der letzte Rege hat mit Tod auf sie geläuert, hat das klare Herz zu Joischer auf der Welt gerufen. Nicht verschnitten hat der Tod der jüdische Emune, nicht verstummt dem Novis Wort von Ausles auf der Lippen. Gott, was deine Barmkeit ist tiefer von der Brunnen, in einem Knopf von ewig Leben sollst du sie vergeben. So hat geheiligt sie das Leben und der Tod noch mehr. So hat reiner noch gemacht die mörderische Tumme. Als verscholten sollen werden Zinder und Zerstörer. Von dem Korben soll der Ausleis unser Jöscher kommen. And I will ask you to stand up. El mole rachamim, shoychen pameroimim. Hamatzai, menocha unechoyeno, al kanfei hashchino. Bimalois kedoshim utoirim, kezoya harakia, mazhirim esnis anshamoish. Mikehilas Hagdoishes Vilna Yerushalayim Dalita Umiswe Seho. And those who also were killed in Panar, in Klogge, in Stutthof, in Treblinka, in Majdanek, und Numitum in über Europa. Shenergu, שנשחטו, שנשרפו, ועל שנספו על קידוש השם ועל קידוש העם, על ידי המרצחים הגרמנים ועוזריהם משאר העמים. בעבור שכל הכל מספלל לאלוהי נשמעיהם, לכן בעל רחמים יסתרי בכנפיו לעולמים, ויצרוי החיים אס נשמעיהם, אדוני ונחלתם. בגן עדן תהי מנוחתם, ויעמדו לגורלם לקץ הימין, ונאמר אמן. And now we recite B'tzibur the Kaddish. Iskadal v'yiskadal shmei rabba, v'elmo devroch Yerusei v'yamelich malchusei, v'chayechoyne v'yomechoyne v'chayedechol beis Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'yemru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevorach, le'olam u'lalmei olmaya, yizborach v'yishtabach v'yispo'ar, yisreiman v'yisnasei v'yishadar, v'yishalei v'yishalal shmei dekutsha brichu, le'ela min kol b'chasa v'shirasa, tush b'chasa v'nechamasa, ta'miram v'yalma v'yemru amen. Yehei shlomei rabba mishmaya, v'chayim aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael v'yemru amen. Oseh shalom b'mreimav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael v'yemru amen.
Those who can, please remain standing. It is our tradition that we close all of these gatherings with the singing of the Hymn of the Partisans, a hymn that has traveled the world, written by the young Vilna poet Elliot Palevsky. And Oy versammelt that die Sonne dem Kajor via Parol soll gehen, das Lied von Jahr zu Jahr. And if the dawn is delayed and the sun doesn't come out on time, let these words become a watchword from one generation to the next. Lassen wir sich sehen in gesund über ein Jahr auf Nusakh Vilne. Und seid nicht kein Fremde da in YIVO a ganz Jahr, wird das Leben bei euch reicher werden. I hope to see you all here again next year on the 16th of September, but please don't be strangers to the YIVO here all year and enrich your lives with the heritage that we're honoring today. Partizanatim.
Ich geh mal aus der Geist dem letzten Weg, als Himmel blauen, verstellen blaue Tag. Kommen wettig unser ausgewänkte Schau, später beugt an unser Trott mit seinen Dach. Kommen wettig unser ausgewänkte Schau, später beugt an unser Trott mit seinen Dach. Grünem Palmenland bis weißen Land von Schnee, mit unser Pfeil, mit unser Weg. Gefaust ist der Spritz von unser Blut, Stolz und wettert unser Glorie, unser Blut. Oh, gefaust ist der Spritz von unser Blut, Stolz und wettert unser Glorie, unser Blut. Die Morgensonne begill uns dem Heind, und der Nächten wird verschwinden mit dem Feind. Neu versammelt wird die Sonne dem Kajor. Ja, Parol soll gehen das Lied von dort zu dort. Neu versammelt wird das Lied dem Kajor. Ja, Parol soll gehen das Lied von dort zu dort. Geschrien, mitgebracht ist der Lied von der Feugel oder Frag. Das hat der Volk zwischen Paar und ich gewählt. Das Lied gesungen mit Naganes in die Hand. Das hat der Volk zwischen Paar und ich gewählt. Das Lied gesungen mit Naganes in die Hand. Ich geh mal aus dem Geist am letzten Weg. Das Himmel blauen, verstellen blaue Tag. Kommen Wetter unser ausgewänkte Schau. Wetter beugt an unser Trott mit seinen Dach. Kommen Wetter von unser ausgebränkte Schloss. Das Wetter beugt an unser Trott mit seinen